Oh, hi everyone, it's Matt from Sharp Medical here. I thought I'd take this opportunity today to present a video to you showing how hospital-based doctors in private practice can use digital accounting software, quite simple digital accounting software, to improve their bookkeeping, so to bring some organisation to the books and records. We find many of our clients are becoming busier and busier, more work stresses, and there just isn't enough time in the day to keep on top of the day-to-day bookkeeping requirements that a company does have a legal obligation to manage. So, for example, if you're a company director, there is a Companies Act requirement to keep good accounting records so that we can prove all of the transactions, and if the taxman wanted to have a look, we could present him with the information that he needs nice and easily. So, for example, organising the purchase invoices, making sure that the bank statements are in order, and that we know what all of the items on the bank statements are. And because that's a problem, there just isn't enough time in the day. There are businesses out there such as Xero and QuickBooks and ClearBooks, Sage, all names that you'll be familiar with, perhaps from TV adverts these days. They've spotted an opportunity here to bring to our attention digital accounting software, which is very user-friendly. It's certainly a shift away from old-fashioned bookkeeping, debits and credits, grey old accounting, into a more colourful way of doing things. And I must admit, I quite like it. I've used Xero in my own business for, I think, 3 or 4 years now, perhaps a touch longer. Not only has it brought some real clarity to how we keep our records on a day-to-day basis, it also means that we can log in at any given time and look at our profitability, our balance sheet, make dividend decisions, and just be better informed business people. And that's what I would hope many of our hospital doctors would want to be. Yes, you're hardworking people and time is of the essence, but it would be nice to think that you could run your business and then at the end of every week or month or even quarter, log on to Xero and pull off some financial reports that tell you how you're doing. So let's say you wanted to make a dividend decision, but you weren't quite sure how much profit there was in the business to take, or how much cash you need to hold back for your tax liabilities. You would like to think that software like Xero would assist you with that. So what I'll do today is I will show you some of the basics on Xero, show you a couple of reports as well. And then what we could do, if anybody's interested in looking at this in any more detail, feel free to get in touch and we'll be more than happy to talk through the process, maybe do some online training. So the dashboard that we've got in front of us, this is what you will see if you start using Xero. Like I said, there are many other software providers, but it just so happens that Xero is the one we particularly like and we know our way around. So with Xero, you go onto the internet, you type in xero.com, you log in a conventional way, and you're presented with this page. And the block that I'm most interested in, and I think you would be most interested in, is the bank account. So this is NatWest. It's an entirely fictitious account, of course. And what's happened is the Xero software, which is cloud-based, has dragged in the transactions from the online banking. So if it happened on the bank, the company's bank, Xero can now see it. So it's a bank feed. And I can see here that in this client's case, there are 23 items, 23 transactions on the bank statements that need to be accounted for before we can draw some financial conclusions, declare dividends, make pension contributions. So we need to deal with that right away. So I shall click on Reconcile 23 items. And then we're presented with broadly 2 columns, so left and right. On the left-hand side, we've got a mirror image of the company's bank statements. So in this doctor's case, you can see in the spent column, he's paid money to Vodafone, he's paid money to Sue Stevens, whoever Sue might be. He's paid Vodafone again and Colin James. And on the received side, he's had money in from Bupa, AXA, perhaps a self-payer here, and a BMI hospital. So this is a typical set of bank statements for a hospital doctor. And what we have to do, using these columns on the right-hand side, we have to account for the transactions. So we'll start with Vodafone. So I've logged on, I'm the hospital doctor, I'm sat at home. I can see that I've paid £36 to Vodafone. So in the Who box, I just simply type Vodafone. And because this is the first time Xero has seen Vodafone, it can be a new contact. And then in the choose the account, this is a drop-down menu. And if I look down here, the chart of accounts is specific to Medic. So this is what we designed, this chart of accounts, that it was entirely relevant to our client base. We'll take a look down for the cost category, and telephone seems to be the most appropriate. And then enter a description. So the fact that this was paid on the 1st of September, I'm going to say this is the August 2019 mobile phone bill. When that data's in, the who, the what, the why, Xero gives me the opportunity to press OK. Then it will disappear off. So for this very simple example, that's just what we'll do. You'll see now we're down to 22. Then we've got some income from Bupa. Again, this is a pretty standard one. So in the who box, I'm going to type Bupa, and this is a new contact. In the what, we're no longer looking under the expenses category because this is money coming in. Instead, we'll scroll down and find revenue. Strangely enough, Xero have revenue at the bottom. And here we go, revenue. You could, by the way, flex and amend this chart of accounts. So if, let's say you were a cosmetic surgeon, you might want to have more than just revenue. You might want to have revenue from Botox, revenue from fillers, revenue from surgical procedures. If you were an anaesthetist, you might want to have revenue per surgeon that you cover. You can flex that as you see fit, including with the expenditure. For example, you may feel that your medical indemnity is a cost that really needs to be kept an eye on. So you have a specific code for that and some drill down reports to help you. But this guy we're dealing with here, let's say he's a pretty simple guy. He just wants to know what his revenue is. So we'll pop that in there. And then the Bupa money, let's call this Bupa revenue received. And again, the OK button arrives. Now, there are plenty of accountants out there and bookkeepers who will say, well, income is recognised on a invoice raised basis. So when the money comes into the bank, that doesn't really matter. That's income being paid, but we've already had it billed. And that's true. And for many of our clients, we will perhaps use the invoicing facility on here, so that when the work is done and the bill is issued, perhaps through health code, the invoice is then duplicated on here, and the money, when it comes in, actually matched against the invoice. But for the purpose of this example, I don't think that's particularly helpful. So we're taking the view that when the money comes into the bank, it's deemed revenue, even though your textbook accountants would perhaps criticise that approach. So we'll press OK to get rid of that Bupa banking, and we can do the same quite easily for the rest of these. But of course, if your business is a large business with lots of transactions, or your time is becoming more and more precious, you might want to put in place some bank rules. So what I shall do here is try to pick out a transaction that will come up time and time again. And I think Sue Stevens is one of them. So Sue got paid there, she got paid there, and I believe she's also later in the piece as well. So rather than having to find Sue Stevens every time and type Sue Stevens secretarial fees and then a description, rather than doing that, instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a rule so that whenever Sue is paid, Xero knows that's the case and treats it accordingly. So here's the 450 paid to Sue. We're going to click on options and create a bank rule. Then we get this blue grid. This just takes a little bit of practice, really, getting around this, and we often set up these rules for our clients. I always delete that top line here, and instead I write reference, not equals, but just contains. So if the reference on the bank statement contains the word Stevens, and it's a spend, so we said money going out, then we're saying that this is Sue Stevens. So far we've told Xero what to look for, and if Xero sees that, it should assume that it's Sue Stevens, who is the supplier, or the contact. In the description, Sue Stevens, monthly secretarial services. fair summary for what Sue does for the business. And then in the account, like we saw on the previous page, we can have a scroll down and hopefully we'll see secretarial, and we do. Now, of course, the vast majority of hospital doctors are not VAT registered, so I won't go into any VAT at the moment. And the rest of it's complete. Xero is giving it a title, so we're going to save this rule. And we return to the bank statement page, and sure enough, Xero is now picking up that this is Sue Stevens, and it's saying to me, Matt, do you want to apply the Sue Stevens rule? And it's the same again down here. In fact, Xero is getting clever in its own right, in that even though I've not set up the bank rule, it's beginning to read the word Bupa and almost suggests to me that it already knows the answers. Same with Vodafone. So you can see that in a fairly low-key way, Xero learns from what you do. And that's helpful to any person who hasn't got much time for bookkeeping. There's also the option in here, by the way, to click on View Details. So when we've got the Sue transaction, you might like to add a copy of the invoice, so you could simply upload a file. And on the desktop here, I've got a bill from the supplier. That was just again a fictitious one. Then we can see in the future if we ever need to see this invoice, if the taxman asks us to see it, rather than having to scroll through lots of different papers in our lofts perhaps, here's a bill from the supplier attached. So we'll save that transaction and reconcile it. So I think you get the gist of this. It's very much bank orientated, easy to use, fairly inexpensive. I believe I will have to, it's a case-by-case basis, but I think Xero broadly charge in the region of £12 per month for the basic functionality, which I'm showing you here today. So I think it's about £12 per month. Xero is good value, but we will have to look at it on a case-by-case basis, because if you do want more functionality, such as the ability to put sales invoices on, or foreign currency, it can be a bit more, but I don't believe even for the most high-tech business it's more than £28 per month, but we will have to check that out together. It's reasonable to say though that the majority of hospital doctors who just want the basics can get away with about 12 quid a month. So if this is our bank items, these are our bank items, I'm just going to clear a few of these while we're here and then show you a report. So we'll very easily clear these ones that Xero is suggesting. Very quickly, just so that we've got a report building up in the background. There's, for example, Sharp Medical Accounting, Sharp Medical, New Contact, Accountancy. So we've probably got enough in there just to, there's a computer, we'll do the computer as well. So Curry's, PC World, computer. For the time being, we'll call that a computer sundry. We'll assume that that is lots of small items rather than one PC purchased. So we'll put here small computer sundry items. So sure enough, we've built up a few transactions. We've got more to do, but at least we're down to 12. And now we can look at a report to see what the end result should be. So we click on accounting at the top and then reports. And within this screen there are lots of different reports, some more relevant than others. I've starred the ones that I think are useful. So a balance sheet, a profit and loss, the account transactions, and for some people aged receivables, so a list of invoices that are outstanding for payment. But I think for the purpose of this exercise I'll show you the profit and loss account. So this is the typical statement that we would look at to see income versus expenditure and assess performance. So we're looking here at the business that's called Demo Medical Business. We're looking at the year ending March 2020, and this includes only the transactions that I've accounted for so far. So I have to clear that remaining 12 or 13 before this has any relevance. So at the moment this revenue is understated and no doubt the costs are as well. But the fact that I've just done a handful should give you an indication that this is what's been built in the background. So for example, revenue, 1,180 for the year. Let's have a click on that and look behind the detail. and Xero brings it up, Bupa, 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 and here are the dates. It's a similar scenario with the secretarial. So if the doctor logs onto his bookkeeping software at the end of the quarter, he's amazed that it's that high. He has a quick click on the 850, and then he remembers that, of course, he's paying Sue Stevens every month for her secretarial services. So there really is a drill down facility that I think is an improvement on most hospital doctors' accounting systems at present. Most people would use an Excel spreadsheet or medical billing software such as DGL, Practice Manager, which is great for great for billing, great for practice management, but not so good as a double entry bookkeeping system. The doctor may say, well, it's nice to see annual performance, but I want to see month by month because I've got dividend decisions to make. So they, instead of having this financial year, they may instead click on this month. For the purposes of our exercise, we'll put September 2019. So we want to see that 1 month of activity versus the last, let's say, 6 months. There won't be anything here, but it just gives you an idea as to how it would stack up. So the doctor might say, well, here's my performance in September, and this is the performance in months gone by. In fact, if I just move this forward a touch to include October, that might be slightly more relevant with more categories populated. Yeah. So again, with very limited data just for this exercise, you can begin to see the how the doctor could log in and look at movements on key costs and key revenue items. Which is a point really, because there might be some costs that really do need to be kept an eye on. So if we click on accounting here, so let's say accountancy fees are the one cost that the client is really keen to keep an eye on. They think they're paying too much. So they click on chart of accounts and they say, let's find accountancy in here. Or you may even ask your accountant to do this. You find the cost category called accountancy. And at the bottom it says show on the dashboard watch list. So by clicking on that and saving, we then really bring that cost category to prominence. So return to the dashboard. And as we go forward, any accountancy fees are shown in here. So for this month it's nil and year to date it's nil. But of course, as transactions flow through the books, this is a nice little watch list. If you're short on time and you just want to see your revenue, your medical indemnity, and your dividends paid, for example, this is a lovely box to have there. Other reports in here, I don't think this is necessarily the time to look at them in detail. The profit and loss is certainly the one. But there's account transactions. So if your accountant wants you to provide a detailed listing of all of the transactions for a particular period, and that's a common request, you could go into here. We'll cover a very long period so that I capture those transactions that I put through and update. Here we go. So the accountant can very quickly see everything that's gone through the books in a given period, the date, whether it was spend money, who it was paid to, the amounts involved. It brings real clarity to things, in my opinion. And let's not forget, by using software like this, it's clear to see that it helps the accountant no end. Accountants want, certainly we as a firm, we want to charge our accountants for giving advice and helping them with the business. We want to be talking about pension taxes and dividends and paying wages to spouses. We don't want to be talking about nitty-gritty, awkward bookkeeping issues. That's a pretty low-skill job and poor value for money generally. So our view as a business over the next over the coming months and years is to make sure that all of our clients use Xero well, so that when we do talk to them, we're talking about real-time data, we're talking about high-level matters that add value to your business. We don't want to be talking about how many stamps we've purchased from the post office for 25p. It really should be about value add. So hopefully this is a good introduction to Xero. There's obviously a lot more to it than what I've shown you today, but this should just set the scene. I'd be more than happy to have a chat with anybody who wants to talk about it. And for those of you who already use Xero, thanks for doing so. It certainly helps us. We hope you're getting on well with it. And maybe there's been one or two bits in this demonstration today that you'll incorporate into your practices moving forward. But for the time being, thanks for listening, and I hope to speak to you all soon. Bye for now.